Good afternoon. I'm Lane Carter. Welcome to Strictly Sports. My co-hosts.
Evan, Brian.
Happy to be here. We are just starting today with, we're going to talk about a little bit of everything, some baseball, some basketball, really making the rounds. So we're going to start talking about the Mariners in spring training.
Yeah, it's coming up. Pitchers and catchers have already reported, so
everyone's there.
A lot of questions going into this year.
Who do you guys think is going to be the last two spots in the starting rotation?
Last two spots? Well, I got to give it to Taijuan as the 4 just because he's been there. He's shown some promise. I just like him. I want him to succeed, so I'll probably put him there. And then it's basically between that point, it's between Paxton and Carnes, right? So I don't know. I'm going to have to hold out and see a little bit. My early impression is Carnes, and the loser is going to go to the pen, but we'll see. What do you think?
I think 4 are locked in with Felix, Kuma, Walker, and Wade Miley, who we got from the Red Sox via trade. And then for me, I would love to see Paxton in there. I liked what we saw from him 2 years ago. He didn't stay healthy this past year, which contributed to a disappointing season for Mariners fans. And I think he's got a lot to offer. He's a good lefty. He's got good downhill action, good size, so it's hard for hitters to get that track as the ball's coming down. So it's just hard overall for him to hit. And he's young, still developing, so not that Carnes isn't. And I haven't seen him pitch, so if he ends up beating out Paxton or Walker or whoever, then great.
Yeah, honestly, we want whoever the best guy is, but really at this point, it's anyone's game for that.
And hopefully all 5 of them can stay healthy, because if you can't get, we'll hope that Kuma stays healthy, because Kuma has problems staying healthy, Paxton does, and then we've only got Walker through 1 year, so we don't know if he can sustain, especially with injuries and just overall longevity. And last year, starting pitching injuries killed us, so if that happens again this year, it could be another similar season.
I mean, baseball's a long season, so you know one of those guys is going to have to come in and make a few spot starts at some point. I mean, in an ideal situation, you'll have the 6th guy out go out and be a really good long reliever for situations like, when you have to bail out a pitcher early or something like that. So hopefully, everyone stays healthy and we get the best we can out of everyone. But like I said, it's a really long season. Anything can happen.
It's nice that we're deep there too with Carnes, and then you got Mike Montgomery, even and Vidal Nuno. Those are 2 guys that also can throw, whether it's long relief or be starters. So we're deep, maybe not as good towards the back end as you would want, but we're deep. So if somebody does go down or 2 guys do go down, you got 5 guys still that have proven starting track record, at least in the past couple of years.
Mariners have been pretty good at pitching for the last 4 or 5 years. Last year was kind of a down year. Again, injuries had a big part of that. And I'm still not too worried about the starting rotation as much as I am about just the fact that, honestly, we don't know that much about a lot of the people that are in the bullpen right now. Most of them are coming off of down years, which is why Dipoto went out and got him, because he likes grabbing those cheap players that he thinks are going to rebound. But mathematically, probably not everyone is going to. So I'm curious to see how that shakes out and how they handle that. But I mean, I'm also really excited to see some of the races at first base. Will we ever stabilize the catcher position? Can we get a guy who can be both, the general and actually hit the ball? The outfield rotation is going to be interesting. What are they going to do with Nelson now? I mean, he batted better as a fielder last year, but obviously you would prefer to have him DH than be on the field with some of the other options we have in his average at best fielding. So I don't know, I'm excited for camp to really get going.
Yeah, it's another one of those instances where baseball, you're not really sure at the beginning and everybody comes in really optimistic. Again, that's kind of the mantra of being a Mariner fan. You got to stay optimistic. I'm optimistic once again. I like the way we'll end up looking 1 through 25. We're not going to be the Cubs or the Giants or whoever, but I think we're going to have a solid team and we're going to compete even more so than last year. And I think it'll be a similar team to 2 years ago where we missed the playoffs by a game. I think the ceiling that people put out for us last year is about the same, where guys like Kirkjian and Olney were saying we could even win the division and win the pennant. But at the same time, I think the floor that we hit and face planted in last year has risen. So where we were last year, I don't think we can fall that flat. But I could see us still missing the playoffs, and I could still see us getting a wild card berth or something like that.
Right.
It's just one of those things
Well,
where
it's like-
not sure yet.
The West is still so, really, to me, it's still open. I mean, we have the Astros, and they're young and promising, but I'm really skeptical on teams when it's their first year of success saying, like, okay, they're going to continue to be successful, especially, you know, in baseball where anything can change on a year-to-year basis. So I think that Houston's obviously the favorite going into the year.
Yeah.
The Angels have kind of been making a slow and steady decline a little bit every year, so I don't know if they're the threat they were.
Not a great offseason.
The A's kind of had a fire sale and kind of gotten rid of most of what they had built up to. And then, of course, the Rangers are dangerous, I think.
They'll mash again. They don't have a lot of good pitching.
They can hit, though.
They mash. And then the Angels, they're going to be about the same. They didn't do a lot to make their team better or worse. They brought in Andrelton Simmons, and he'll take away a lot of runs from teams. But other than that, they didn't make a lot of splashes. Houston's going to be Houston. They're going to play another good season, I think. I mean, that young talent's here to stay. But just like you said, in baseball, anything can happen. Last year, you had the Mets there, the Cubs there, the Astros there. These are all teams that weren't there the year before, and they're making some noise. So why not the Mariners this year?
Right.
That's every year one of us.
Exactly,
It's
every
the
year.
Seattle mantra,
It's the
actually.
Seattle
It's been
mantra,
15
really.
years.
Not
It's
even
been
just the
15
Hawks.
years.
Yeah.
15 years, and, like, I mean, how long since we actually won a series? Like, once we were in the playoffs. So
Yeah.
It's been a while. But
Check my watch.
Seriously, your calendar. Speaking of getting started on an exciting season, I guess it's wrapping up, but March Madness season.
so when the
is
season
up.
really begins for a lot
Yeah,
of us.
actually, though. So I don't know, it's kind of bubble teams and.
You tell me. We took over on baseball. Tell
Yeah,
me.
Yeah.
Let's hear
flip
it.
this
Well,
on you. Talk to us about
you know
your-
my favorite is the Zags, baby.
Yeah.
so-
Speaking of bubble teams.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm ready. It would be their 18th year in a row getting a bid, and I think that's a lot to live up to. Everyone this year is saying, oh, they're having a bad year, but I don't think that's necessarily true. I mean, we've lost to some really good teams. No one that we've never lost to before, you know. So, not really any upsets.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think that it hasn't been our strongest year, but I think Josh Perkins is going to step up. I think with Karnowski out, we're really realizing like how much we need that big inside game. You know, I don't know. Losing people like Kevin Pangos is detrimental. Yeah.
I can see the argument both ways for the Zags because I mean anytime you have a 20+ win year, you're not doing terrible.
2 in a row.
You're not doing
Yeah.
terrible. However, at the same time, you can make the argument they've lost against some of those bigger opponents that they've scheduled. They haven't won against a top 100 or 150 team in the nation, so that's kind of rough when you're trying to argue against some of these other small teams that are from smaller schools trying to make it in.
Yeah, I think.
I think the
consistency's on their
BYU
side.
game is a huge game for them. If they beat BYU, that will definitely solidify their case. If they don't, they're going to have to win their conference playoff.
Always a
outright.
nail biter too with BYU.
Right.
I don't know, like 2 or 3 years ago, I think we lost to them a couple years ago, and it was just.
Yeah, I mean it happens. So.
Yeah, I don't know. BYU is so unpredictable though.
And they got one of the best players in the nation, Kyle Collinsworth, a guy a lot of people probably
They
don't
always have
know
one of the
about.
best players in the nation.
He's no Jimmer Fredette, but he's a
Yeah.
freaking he's a triple double machine.
Definitely.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
seriously,
whenever
I
you bring
heard
up
that
BYU
name.
basketball, you
Jimmer.
have
Cool.
to.
Jimmer.
But Collinsworth, if he's not averaging a triple double, it's close. And shoot, I think the other night I saw in the first half he was a rebound and 2 assists away from a triple double just in the first half. So
Yeah.
he'll be a tough guy to stop. But yeah, overall Gonzaga has really struggled with guard play, so that's been their biggest Achilles heel this year. Not to mention that you said Karnowski went down. That's a tough one.
tragic, yeah.
Yeah, and
I
it
mean,
just
Sabonis is a good inside
Yeah.
man, but he's not
He's got the name for
7.
it.
Yeah, he does.
He's not 7'3" or whatever Karnowski is.
and he's still young and he's still growing, and
Mhm.
I think the toughest thing that's had to happen for them this year is spreading Wilter so thin. His
Only do
minutes,
so much.
yeah, his minutes are up. He's averaging 20 points a game plus, which is up from last year, and
Oh,
he
definitely.
came into the season as a Wooden Award candidate. But I think he's being stretched a little bit more. He's playing more minutes. He's asked to do more than he has in the past. I don't know if that's something he wants to do. But I still think if they get in the tournament, they're going to be a team that a 5 or a 4 seed looks at on their bracket and says, "Oh crap, this is not a good,
Definitely.
not a good opening matchup."
Yeah. I mean, first round in years past, we've always said okay. It's just as soon as we get to like Sweet 16, that's when Zach's fans start biting their nails.
That's where they would kind of run into a wall. But
Yeah.
like, who are some of the other teams we're thinking about? Because I know for one, I've been watching closely. Not I would say closely. I've been watching a little bit on these bubble teams. I think Wisconsin's been making a really strong push.
Yeah.
Didn't they have a win over Maryland
Yeah, they've
recently?
had some good
And
wins lately.
They were
Definitely.
dead in the water a few weeks ago, and now
They've had
suddenly.
a cool, consistent year this
Yeah,
year.
It's
now
been a
they're-
weird year with the whole Bo Ryan thing and not having the names that you expect, especially after Kaminsky and Decker.
You had such
leave
a
and-
veteran team
Yeah.
for so many years, and now you're kind of starting over.
Yeah.
I think,
Basically,
but I
starting
think,
five.
I think they've been doing well. I think they might get in. I think.
LSU's another team that's on the bubble that's real interesting.
I don't know.
A couple weeks ago, I thought they were in. Now I don't know.
I mean, I don't. They've got arguably the best, or at least the
He
second
is-
best
He's
player.
the best player.
Yeah, but
Whether or not he's the best college basketball player, he's the best basketball player in college. There's a difference between being a college performer and being the best basketball player.
performer.
He's the best basketball player, and no matter what happens, if they don't make the tournament, whatever,
He's out.
He's number one overall
He's-
pick.
he's
Yeah.
Number one overall pick. If you watch him play, you got no other questions.
He's pretty good. I don't know. From what I've seen, it seems like whenever they need to step up, that LSU team has just not been able to. So I don't
And
know.
they also just lost their second leading scorer, so that does not help at
that's
all.
not going to help the situation. So I think they're going to probably fall out.
Which is a bummer because, I mean, coming
We would
in,
love to see him in
yeah.
a tournament for
Ben,
sure.
Ben Simmons, I'll bet you a lot of people haven't even seen him play yet, and he was the next big thing. It was before the season, they were dubbing it like, oh, what if LeBron went to college? And now we're not even going to get to see him on the biggest stage, and that would be unfortunate.
It would be
but
unfortunate. But it would also be unfortunate to see just the name recognition bump
Yeah.
a more deserving team.
True.
That's fair.
Very true too. They'll have to make some noise in the SEC, maybe knock off a Kentucky or
They're
something
probably
like
going to have
that.
a very strong conference tournament.
Yeah.
Which Kentucky doesn't really have anything to worry about though, as far as getting bids.
Oh, no,
so,
they'll get in.
Yeah.
They'll, yeah.
Kentucky.
Conference tournaments are kind of more for the teams that are on the bubble.
Such a weird process.
Yeah, it's more for the teams on the bubble to get a couple wins against better teams, and then if a Kansas or whoever ends up winning the tournament, it's just an added incentive for them
Yeah.
at that point.
Sure.
Definitely. I think we'll have crowd favorite Michigan State like always.
That's my early pick to
I
put
don't know.
down.
They're always fun watching them when the tournament comes around. I like watching
Yeah,
Michigan State
definitely.
games.
Yeah.
I'll
Just
sound
to
like a broken
connect with
record.
them.
Tom Izzo is just, I mean,
He's
if
one of
you-
the best coaches in the
Yeah,
Yeah,
he just
absolutely.
he just gets his team ready to play in March, whether they have a good team or not. In terms of, this year, they got a real good team, so it won't be as tough for him to get him going. And he's had not as good teams in the past, and still gets into the Elite Eight, Sweet 16. So
Definitely. And it sounds corny, but honestly, their morale is like looking at them next to whoever they're playing. Like the morale is just way higher for Michigan State than anyone else.
And another thing they have going for them, I think you need to have at least one go-to real good player that down the stretch, if you need it, can get you those buckets and take over a game.
Definitely.
And they got Denzel Valentine, who's a beast on every front, basically. He's a point forward, basically. He can, not to say he's Magic Johnson, but he brings that to the table, that size of a guy that can still bring the ball up, can score, can go on the offensive and defensive rebound. So for me, if I had to put money on a team winner right now, it's Michigan State.
All right, moving on from college basketball to the What's Good this week. We had a nice little video shared with us.
Still kind of in the basketball.
Yeah, in the
realm,
basketball realm
loosely.
for sure. We had an otter, his little sea otter with arthritis.
It's our boy Eddie.
His name's Eddie. He has arthritis in his little otter
In
arm.
his little otter arm.
Yeah.
And what happened was that the doctors thought, why not try to do some water exercises for little Eddie and see if that helps. And honestly, I think the footage speaks best. So.
Yeah, he's just dunking away. So thanks for watching Strictly Sports. Tune in next week and see what we have in store for you. And hopefully it'll be just as cute as little Eddie the Otter.
All right, see you next week, guys. We out.